He seems some timing.
He's not. We talked it out and we're in a good place.
Okay, my bad. Hope he keeps his shit together this time.
Yeah, at least he knows how to use his words and doesn't disappear.
All of Issa's romantic interests have experienced hate campaigns at one point or another, but none as undeserved as Nathan's, who was played by Kendrick Sampson, a man I will decline to lust after because I could see him see in this video. So instead, what I will say is, y'all see the material. If Issa had nothing else, our girl had taste. But y'all didn't f with Nathan. And the reason y'all didn't f with Nathan is the same reason y'all didn't f with Lawrence in the beginning. You is ableist as f. Yes, you heard me.
That's right, I said it.
You is so ableist, in fact, that all the light skin and green eyes in the world ain't stop y'all ableist motherfuckers treating Nathan's bipolar disorder as the same thing as being a bum ass, which is precisely how Lawrence's depression was treated at the beginning of the series when he wasn't financially or emotionally supporting Issa because being unable to get a job in the field he studied for had the man depressed. And it's one thing to understand why someone might not be able to be romantically involved with a person dealing with mental health battles above their pay grade. It's another thing to hate dealing with mental health issues and equate them to being bums or burdens undeserving of love. And we usually see the latter from Insecure fans. The common remark I see from Insecure fans when talking about Issa's relationship with Nathan is something along the lines of he had too many problems and or he needed to come healed first. Now, I'ma keep holding your hands when I say this, but I'm tightening my grip, so hand me and hand me good. Take that come healed shit out of your lexicon, okay? Neither you or anyone else is ever going to get to some place where you've just transcended your literal mental health disorders, mental health struggles, traumas, or any other kind of baggage you have because you are a human being. Free yourselves from the idea that you or anyone else can or needs to work on yourself enough to be unburdensome enough to be loved. We will always be battling shit. Nathan is bipolar. He literally cannot come healed. That is a mental health disorder he has, and it is not something he can or needs to be done struggling with in order to deserve love or a relationship. The idea that he wasn't the one for Issa because he had 1 or 2 mental health episodes in the entirety of their relationship is some ableist shit we gonna get to unpacking today. And don't get me wrong, I'm not kicking y'all's back in for being reluctant to support Issa and Nathan's relationship. I know that are not consciously saying bipolar. What's actually happening is that after decades of being sold different versions of struggle love in many of our classic Black films and shows like Love and Basketball, Love Jones, Brown Sugar, The Best Man, the list goes on, we have finally started saying no to struggle love, which we should. But we have gone from not only saying no to struggle love, but to demanding perfection. And quite frankly, creating this romanticized idea of Black love that does not seem to take into consideration the reality and tolls of Black life. You cannot expect a Black person living in this world to come skipping down the road free of trauma. And even if they do come skipping down the road traumaless, it's only a matter of time before they trip over a rock and fall, because that's life. There is a reason why the vows say through thick and thin. And I agree with y'all that it should not be mostly thick, and the thick should not be the result of your partner's actions. But we've overcorrected from saying no to struggle love to wanting a perfect life, an easy life, a soft life. And I'm gonna hold y'all hand while we jump back down into reality. So, without further ado, this is why Nathan deserved better. But not from Issa, from us.
Black independent, strongest in women. It's so late, it's so late, it's so late, it's so late now. I know that I'm worth it, so make sure to listen. It's so late, it's so late, it's so late, it's so late.
Issa met Nathan when she was driving Lyft on the side when she was saving up to try to get her own apartment again. Issa ends up Nathan's Lyft driver and sparks fly immediately. He also ends up beating up some belligerent jumped in Issa's Lyft and almost caught himself a case, but that's neither here nor there. The first time Issa and Nathan really hang out together, they go running around LA doing wild shit she wouldn't typically do, like jumping in a stranger's pool and just having the most obvious chemistry and banter.
Or you can go to Lamar Park, because that has hella cool stuff.
Is that walkable? Cause y'all know y'all LA people don't like to walk.
You're not gonna keep talking about my city.
What you gonna do about it?
Come on.
Here's what we need to establish right out the gate. Issa was miserable most of her early on-screen relationship with Lawrence. She never f***ed with Daniel a long way, but my bitch was trip off Nathan, okay? Grinning from ear to ear, feeling like a schoolgirl. Y'all don't have to like Nathan, but them's the facts. and it was demonstrated repeatedly that our girl was mesmerized by Nathan. But there is no greater example as to why our girl was down bad for Nathan than the Coachella episode.
At least it's a good view.
Woo, baby! I mean, in the beginning, anybody who wasn't Team Lawrence or still holding out hope for Daniel was Nathan the long way when he first arrived, because there was no reason not to be. He was this free-spirited barber from Houston that Issa had a ton of chemistry with, who listened to her, who encouraged her to take risks, and it was the first time since the series began that we saw our girl Issa just really happy and excited about a guy and feeling sure about a relationship. But as most heterosexual women know, it's usually the minute you start feeling the spirit of my man, that a that's ready to let you down. There's a poem I heard on Button Poetry years ago, and there's one line that lives in my mind rent free.
When a boy says, I love you, he means I am getting ready to be inconsistent with you now.
When a man tells you he loves you, he is getting ready to act inconsistent with you now. And that's not always true, but it be true a lot. And never does it feel truer than when you just finished staying up bearing your soul to thinking this is the real deal, and the next day you do not hear from that nigga no more. And that is exactly how Nathan did Issa.
You cute. Nathan must have forgot. Remind him. Give him the eyebrow. Feeling real cute like. Yeah. I knew that nigga couldn't resist.
Are you sure this is the right?
Oh my God, I have the same top.
Girl, he buys you one taco and you bust it wide open on a Ferris wheel. Simple. That's why he's not fucking with you. Nah, it's probably because you got butt ass naked in your childhood pool sharing your family issues and shit. Niggas don't do that.
And when I tell y'all our girl did not handle it well, I mean our girl was going outside behind Nathan. I'm talking damn near breaking and entering. This is not a Molly and Issa video, so I'm not gonna harp on it too long, but y'all know I would be remiss if I did not point out that this is yet another one of the times that Issa had Molly all the way up and no one clocked it because they don't with Molly. First of all, Andrew was not even half as good of a guy as the insecure fandom pretends he was, because no one knows what to do with themselves when a fine ass Asian man walks into the room. But I'm not even trying to fight with you Andrew stands right now. That's a conversation for another day and another video. But regardless of how you feel about Andrew or Molly, if your friend walked out of a date with a man and she don't fuck with him and she don't want to see him, muscling her into going to his house like a loser bitch so he can run on in her face and scold her while you try to investigate his home for signs of life for his roommate who's ghosting you is nuts. Love to overlook the sacrifices Molly made for Issa, and I'd be tired because I am a lawyer in real life and so is my best friend, and I can assure you if either one of us called the other one in the middle of our busy fucking workday to do some bullshit like this, we'd say, bitch, if you don't stop playing with me and get some help.
Stop it. Get some help.
And that's not the only time Issa played on Molly's top over Nathan, but we'll get to that later. The point is, when Nathan ghosted Issa, our girl went outside behind him. And while Issa did once pop up at Chad House looking for Lawrence, she wasn't sick like she was sick about Nathan. But speaking of sick, your girl is 32 years old and I have an autoimmune disorder that stays whooping my ass. So it should surprise no one that I stay in front of a doctor, both in person and virtually, which is ass, the needing the doctor's part. But the finding the doctor's part is easy because of my sponsor, ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. And ZocDoc isn't just for one type of care. They have more than 100,000 providers across nearly every specialty, from primary care to dental health, eye care to urgent care to mental health and more. It's the one-stop shop for all your healthcare needs. No need to call doctors' offices and wait on hold either. ZocDoc lets you do everything online. I have been using ZocDoc since I was in college, long before I ever had a platform for them to sponsor me on. So I was too excited to get the opportunity to partner with them because ZocDoc is the only reason I've been able to have a team of doctors for my many different ailments. When you found the doctor that you need, you can see their actual appointment openings. Plus, ZocDoc helps you get appointments fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments. So, stop putting off those doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LurinatiPop. Also linked in the description to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back to it. Because Issa went out so sad behind Nathan ghosting her, fans stopped with Nathan and they were unmoved when he reappeared months down the line to let Issa know his disappearance wasn't about her. He was really just depressed. Now, here's the first but most important warning I have to give to all my delusional 20-somethings out there before I get to caping for Nathan. As someone who spent my 20s dating on the mean streets of New York City, I have ghosted many a man, and many a man has ghosted me. And on the occasions where a man ghosted me when I wasn't ready to be ghosted, I, like everyone else on earth, has delusionally convinced myself there must be some deep, convoluted, delusional explanation for why a man I swear really liked me has now fallen off the earth. And if you are currently looking at your phone, checking for texts from someone who's ghosted you, I know that you are vulnerable right now. So I know this exceptional story where Issa and Nathan had a whirlwind romance where she thought the feelings were mutual and he suddenly ghosts her for months and returns because he actually really was into her, but he was struggling with his bipolar disorder, might give you false hope. So I'm here to tell you, no, baby. This is the fictional exception to the rule. I assure you that no matter what you think, no matter how much love was in the air, no matter how they rocked your world, if that motherfucker ghosted you, they ain't you like that. Period. Sorry. End of story. Don't let Nathan get you thinking that man who ain't checked to see if you alive or dead in months is really somewhere loving you, missing you, and ready to return and be a loving significant other who addresses his mental health issues. No. Now, back to it. Here's the gag about Issa and Nathan's relationship. Everyone always talks as though Nathan's inability to come healed was the problem, when in fact, it was Issa's baggage that held them back. Issa's baggage being a Lawrence, of course. When Nathan returns after ghosting Issa, and even though I'm caping for my boy Nathan and his return, let's let the record reflect that Molly was absolutely right to assume this man was a trifling ghosted her bestie for months, and so when he pops back up on her birthday, she doesn't immediately just grant this man access to Issa's life, and Issa goes the off on her. And another time, my girl Molly ain't deserved the shit she was getting. But anyway, when Nathan returns after ghosting Issa, he doesn't immediately tell Issa the extent of what he was going through, just that he was depressed. So even though Issa still likes him, she's apprehensive about getting involved with him again. And in some ways, she's still reading him as a who was just depressed and ran away instead of communicating. And we all know from Issa and Lawrence's relationship that Issa don't have too much respect for depression as it is. So even though Nathan is back and he and Issa are hanging out again and their chemistry and feelings for each other are still obviously present, Issa is still hesitant to give them another chance. And just as it's seeming like she and Lawrence reconnect. And unlike her hesitance about giving her and Nathan another chance, she was sure about giving her and Lawrence another try. And she told Nathan as much when she went to his new place to help him unpack. And Nathan is taken aback by this information. So he replies,
When you cheated on him, thought you was over that shit. Hope he keeps his shit together this time.
Nathan's jab at Lawrence makes Issa defensive, prompting her to retort,
Yeah, at least he knows how to use his words and doesn't disappear.
I feel compelled to point out the irony of Issa saying to Nathan, at least he knows how to use his words and doesn't disappear. Because Issa's failure to use her words was why she cheated on Lawrence with Daniel instead of telling him she was unhappy in their relationship. And their relationship ended when Lawrence quite literally packed up all his shit in the dead of night and moved the f out instead of using his words. So Issa got some nerve saying that shit to Nathan, but that is not what makes this moment important. This moment between Nathan and Issa is really important because Nathan's feelings were immediately hurt when Issa took aim at him. And he could have easily gotten defensive, retreated, or escalated the argument. But instead, he paused and took the opportunity to share with Issa what had really happened and why.
I didn't just disappear. I found out I'm bipolar.
Nathan wasn't just depressed. Not that depression in and of itself is not serious or a perfectly legitimate reason or explanation as to why a person might withdraw or fail to properly communicate. It is. But he wasn't just depressed.
I found out I'm bipolar.
Oh, shit.
Nah, no, I just told you that I was feeling depressed, but when I went back to Houston, I found out for sure. And honestly, that was a relief.
I'm so sorry you went through all that, and then I didn't see it.
Nah, I didn't know how to talk about it. I was scared people wouldn't understand or they called me crazy. I had to get comfortable with it.
He was having a manic episode that he didn't know was a manic episode until he got diagnosed as bipolar. And despite the fact that Issa told him she's choosing Lawrence, Nathan still gave her the clarity she needed, shared his diagnosis, and let her know he appreciated her and wanted her in his life.
I'm just glad you're doing better.
Yeah, I mean, I had to sort through a whole lot of bullshit, but, I got some clarity on the type of people I want in my life. And you one of them. Nah, for real. I appreciate you.
And he didn't tell her he wanted her in his life as a means to try to get her to pick him. He said it because he meant it, because he makes good on this. Even though Issa chose Lawrence and her relationship with Lawrence quickly crumbled under the weight of Lawrence getting Condola pregnant, Nathan remains Issa's friend the entire time, showing up for her, supporting her, never crossing her boundaries, whilst trying to show up for himself as he navigates his new diagnosis as well as his interpersonal relationships with a bunch of who are quick to label him crazy and throw it in his face.
This really who y'all want to listen to? This crazy motherfucker?
The fuck you just say?
Nigga, you heard me? Stop worrying about me and worry about your own bipolar ass.
Y'all doing way too much. Shook, I have some essential oils. How about some lavender?
Fuck lavender. Get them oils to Nathaniel soft ass.
Nathan was a good friend to Issa and an even better boyfriend, but let's talk about what kind of friend he was for the moment. Nathan encouraged Issa to bet on herself and start the block, and when she does, Nathan celebrates Issa and he credits her with inspiring him to bet on himself and buy his barbershop. Nathan doesn't only just support Issa's dreams for the block by encouraging her to pursue them, showing up for her events, or hiring her to plan an event for his barbershop, all of which he does do, but he also connected her to Andrew, who connected her to Vince Staples when Molly refused to do so. And when Molly lashes out on Issa for having Nathan help her get Andrew's help to book Vince Staples, Molly tells Issa she's a user, but Nathan calls Issa the very next day to check on her and assure her that what Molly said wasn't true, and he helped her because he wanted to help her. And y'all know me, I'm an equal opportunist. So even though I am a Molly apologist, I can't constantly point out when Molly has been wronged and not point out when Molly was wrong. And Molly was dead wrong for how she did Issa in this situation, and we will talk about it another day in the Molly and Issa video. So back to it. Nathan is always there to affirm Issa or to make sure she feels more comfortable because Nathan was in love with Issa. Unfortunately for Nathan, Issa was in love with Lawrence. When I think of Nathan and Issa's relationship, the second and final go around, from Nathan's perspective, this is what I think about.
And I loved and I trusted him, so his bullshit I would swallow, even though my intuition would never let me sleep.
My intuition would never let me sleep. Keep that in mind. I think a lot of people perceive Nathan and Issa's breakup as Nathan just bugging out or having an episode and just up and dumping Issa out of nowhere unreasonably, but that's not what happened. It comes across that way because we already have this idea in our minds that Nathan is an unstable, unreliable man who runs away from his problems because that's how Issa perceived him. But it wasn't true. Nathan loved Issa, and I think Issa really cared about him. Maybe she loved him too, but she loved Lawrence more. And she was using Nathan as a placeholder for Lawrence, and Nathan knew it because his intuition would never let him sleep. Let's look at the facts, shall we? Nathan told Issa how he felt about her, and Issa told him she wanted to be with Lawrence. Issa and Lawrence then break up. Issa and Nathan stay friends for a year. One night, Issa randomly asks Nathan to spend the night, and when he kisses her, she bursts out crying mid-kiss. Nathan leaves and comes to the conclusion that he is in the friend zone and Issa is inconsistent with him. Issa then reasserts that they're just friends before eventually admitting how she really feels about him.
I know I've been afraid to admit it because I don't want to look stupid, but I don't want to just be friends with you.
It is a shame that barely moments after Issa and Nathan are officially together and happy as Issa sees Lawrence, Condola, and their baby in the hospital and begins to be consumed with thoughts of Lawrence. Despite knowing she's regularly thinking about Lawrence in the back of her mind, that does not stop Issa from professing her love to Nathan and eventually lashing out at him when he happened to question whether LA is the place for him when she was already feeling insecure about him not having said he loved her yet.
I told you I loved you, and we didn't even discuss it. Were you just never gonna acknowledge that?
This event is another reason why we as the audience see Nathan as someone who runs away from his problems. Because that's how Issa perceives it when he suggests baby leaving LA. And she perceives him that way because despite the fact that she now knows he ghosted her because he was manic and coming to terms with his diagnosis, not because he wanted to leave her, she's still holding it against him and or allowing it to shape how she perceives him. So she immediately interprets him wanting to leave LA as wanting to leave her. But we as the audience know that the reason Nathan said that was because one of his co-owners at the barbershop used him being bipolar as license to call him every kind of crazy the middle of the barbershop, and no one checked it, put a stop to it, or cared about his feelings, which then made Nathan, a black man doing his best to deal with his own mental health and avoid the stigma of crazy, come to the conclusion that maybe that environment isn't best for him. But Issa doesn't know that. She thinks Nathan wants to avoid acknowledging that she told him she loves him. But Nathan does love Issa. He's just hesitant to say it because deep down, he knows something ain't right.
This is dumb. You know how I feel about you.
Then why are you being so defensive?
Because you telling me that I'm not committed. You the one that's been all inconsistent.
What does that mean?
It means you crying in my mouth one minute, then telling me that you want me the next minute, then you want to take things slow. Now you telling me you love me. What do you want from me?
We could want Nathan to be wrong all we want, but he wasn't, because the facts are that in one breath, Issa was in his face begging him to be all in and telling her he loves her. But in the next breath, the moment he's not around, she's with her girls thinking about Lawrence and calling Lawrence. And when Issa wasn't calling Lawrence, even as she and Nathan were making plans to move in and do life together, all her fantasies about their future together still always found their way back to Lawrence. So with that in mind, let's take a closer look at the events of Tiffany and Derek's farewell party, which led to Issa and Nathan's breakup. Nathan found out at the party that Lawrence would not only be in attendance, but that he had moved back to LA months ago, a fact Issa was somehow privy to, yet never mentioned. And she starts being real weird and short when Nathan's talking to her about it. Now imagine you're Nathan and your girlfriend who cheated on her ex, so you know what she's capable of, and she previously chose her ex over you. Imagine that girlfriend knows that the same ex she chose over you moved back to town and didn't say anything to you. And then that same ex starts having a pissing contest with you over your girlfriend, using barbecue as a metaphor, and says this shit to you.
I mean, I still stand by LA having good barbecue, though. You know, people who haven't been here long enough, they just write it off.
That's true, too. Nah, once people have Texas barbecue, they know it's good.
Barbecue must not be good enough to keep him there. Barbecue must not be good enough to keep him there.
Lawrence was implying that Issa had returned to him in some way. He was implying that Issa cheated on him. And while Issa had not cheated, she did call that man. She gave Lawrence the ammunition to be able to stress her boyfriend out because she was doing some shit she wasn't supposed to be doing. Many a perfectly sane to set it off right then and there. At minimum, Issa would have been overwhelmed by the amount of accusations she would have gotten hit with immediately. Shit, not for nothing, let's not forget how Lawrence carried on in season 1 when he just witnessed Daniel being a little too cagey, having too much of a conversation with Issa at the party. That led to a breakup. Lawrence ended up dumping her off that, but somehow when Nathan does it, it's a problem. Anyhow, even though many are saying blowing up over that initial interaction with Lawrence, Nathan does not do that. He knows that is playing in his face, but he remains calm and he tries to talk himself down. So he goes outside to talk to one of his boys, only for the next thing you know, when he walked back into the party, he meet his gal in the cut talking to the ex she once chose over him and who just implied earlier that day that something was going on between them.
Are you happy, yes or no? Because I realize that I am not happy when I'm not with you. Because I love you, Issa.
What's all this?
Oh, I was just taking out trash.
No, we were having a conversation.
No, we weren't.
Yes, we were.
The fuck you doing?
Let's go.
Calm down, man. We was just talking.
I'm calm, but I should go up.
Bro, you keep trying to walk in my space.
Oh,
You've
been here.
What's that?
All right, so you been
Let's go, bro.
Let's go. I'm chill.
It's after this that Nathan breaks up with Issa because he know that no matter how much he loves Issa or how much Issa claims to love him, he could see that gal wasn't done with Lawrence, and continuing to be with Issa was just setting himself up to end up hurt, embarrassed, looking crazy, and a mess, which was the last thing Nathan wanted for obvious reasons. Nathan did not dump Issa because he was bipolar or having an episode or because he wasn't healed. He dumped her because his intuition would never let him sleep.
Been, ignoring this feeling that I've had all along, but I gotta take a step back.
This isn't some impulsive manic choice from a man who can't communicate or like to run away from his problems. This is a painful decision from a man who knew he needed to choose self-preservation because he was in love with a woman he knew loved another man. It wasn't a rushed, hot-headed, split decision. It was Nathan struggling to do something he'd finally gotten undeniable proof he needed to do, but didn't want to. And I think that's reflected in the fact that he doesn't run away again, neither from LA or Issa's life necessarily. We see him one more time when he comes to her birthday party to thank her and give her a donation to the block. And I think get closure. But I think on some level, he also wanted to see if she'd fight for the relationship, which I think is something he was hoping for when he initially told her he needed to take a step back. I think you can see the pain and recognition in Nathan's eyes when Issa just accepts what he's saying, leaves the car, and enters her home. I think you could see that pain in his eyes again at the party when she accepts the end of their relationship with no pushback. I think a part of Nathan hoped he was wrong and that she'd insist on being together, but she doesn't, which is reminiscent of an earlier argument they had when Nathan realizes that whenever he expresses how he feels about a situation or environment he's in, Issa immediately interprets it as him running away, being avoidant, or trying to end their relationship, and doesn't really inquire about what happened or what he's going through to make him feel how he's feeling.
You're not even gonna ask me what I'm going through?
It's not abnormal for people to have bad days or experiences and to wonder whether they should leave or quit their job or move. It rarely means they're actually going to do that. But because of how Nathan is perceived by Issa and the audience, he doesn't get the benefit of these kind of musings. Here's the thing about Insecure that makes it really special. There are no villains, just flawed people trying to make their relationship work as they try to figure themselves out and not always succeeding. Nathan and Issa could have been and were perfect for each other in so many respects, but Issa already had her heart set on Lawrence. And I don't think Issa was right or wrong for choosing Lawrence. I think she could have had a good life with either Lawrence or Nathan. There isn't always a right or wrong choice. Sometimes life is just about picking a path, which is solid advice Molly actually gave Issa when she was struggling to pick between working with a company who had invested in her and wanted to pay her oodles of money, or working with Crenshaw, a local rapper who she bent over backwards to help, only to have him spit in her face and slander her name repeatedly right up until he realized it was in his best interest to work with her. Molly's good advice wasn't actually so good in that situation, because there was certainly a right and a wrong choice to make in that instance, and Crenshaw was certainly the wrong choice if you ask me. But the advice as applied to Nathan and Lawrence was spot on. Issa couldn't go wrong either way. It was just about who she truly wanted to be with, and in her heart of hearts, it was Lawrence. But that will not stop me from appreciating Nathan as one, if not the best man, on a show filled with fairly good and very nuanced men. I think Nathan was really special because in many ways, his journey mirrored Issa's and Lawrence's to some extent, because just like early Issa, the people around him viewed him as a mess, which made him feel like he needed to prove himself to them. Nathan feared that the people in his life had either written him off for things he did when he was manic and didn't know, or would decide he was crazy if he told them he was bipolar. But he overcame that, and he did prove himself. He bought his barbershop, he created a support group for men, he opened up to people about his diagnosis, he put down roots and stopped running away, whilst also removing himself from situations he knew weren't good for him. Haters like to say Nathan needed to come healed, and while I maintain that that's a ridiculous ableist expectation to put on anyone, let alone Black people navigating mental health issues and the stigma around it, in many ways, Nathan did come healed. When Nathan returned to Issa after ghosting her, he came with a diagnosis, medication, and started working through his shit. He came open, he came vulnerable, ready to communicate and ready to commit. It was our girl Issa still holding on to Lawrence that held them back. So I don't want to hear not one negative word about Nathan, not on this line. And Nathan not dead, but we miss our run the song one time for the one time, Aaron.
Really miss my nigga. I really miss my nigga. White people you can sing it to, just change that N to a W. Miss my wigger.